so what I thought we would look at this morning or today is just this whole idea of just trying to work with what we have, and also knowing that what's going on around us is just happening, and all we can do is the best that we can. And it's also because my classes have closed yesterday, I took the decision to close all of my classes, and it's that whole idea that all of a sudden everything that we think is quite normal, or our habits or our routines, all of a sudden it's taken away from us, and that can make us feel quite adrift sometimes, I think, and the whole idea of worrying about things that are just happening anyway. So I thought I would just start by reading a poem by Mary Oliver, and then we'll go into a short practice which I relate to the whole idea of just coming into contact with what we're feeling inside our body, and how our yoga practice, the physical practice, can allow us a sense of calmness or quietness in a world that sometimes feels totally out of control. Right, so let me, I'll just read this short poem and then we'll start. And I will say as well, I've got my dog, so hopefully I can just work around him. He's usually not a bother. So, I Worried by Mary Oliver. I worried a lot. Will the garden grow? Will the rivers flow in the right direction? Will the earth turn as it was taught? And if not, how shall I correct it? Was I right? Was I wrong? Will I be forgiven? Can I do better? Will I ever be able to sing? Even the sparrows can do it, and I am, well, hopeless. Is my eyesight failing, or am I just imagining it? Am I going to get rheumatism, lockjaw, dementia? Finally I saw that worrying had come to nothing, and I gave it up, and took my old body and went out into the morning and sang. So it's with that whole idea that we're just aware, we know what's going on around us, we know what's happening, and we care. We always care, but we learn to cope, if not thrive, in something that is beyond our control. So when we come into the practices, it's the idea, and I know I say this in all my classes all the time, but it's with the idea that we come into contact with how these things make us feel. So the physical practices, the postures, the asanas, and our body is just a gateway to that whole idea of knowing and understanding what's happening within us. And when we can cope with what's happening within us, everything around us, in a sense, we just allow it to be, because we are okay. So I'll work the practices as well. So if my voice kind of comes and goes a little bit, it's because I'm lying down. So you don't have to watch me, you don't have to do anything like that. You can just follow my words. So if we coming onto your mat and just coming into, like we would usually start our classes, just coming into semi-supine, so the soles of your feet are flat to the floor and your knees are bent, just those kind of things, a space between your knees, space between your ankles, and just allowing your hands to rest somewhere on your body, either your abdomen or the base of your ribs, centre of the spine. And just for a few moments, just allowing yourself to be here, giving yourself permission just to rest on your mat, in this place that you're in, and with the breath that you take. So coming into that awareness of your breath that comes in, and being aware of your breath that leaves. And quite quickly we notice that maybe our mind wanders away. And then we see that isn't a problem either. Our mind wanders, it's what it does. So we bring it back and we focus again on the breath that comes in. We focus again on our breath that leaves. And then as you breathe, taking your attention down through to your feet, and those parts of your feet that are in contact with the floor, so the soles of your feet, the tips of the toes, the outside edges, the heels, the inside edges and the arch. And then just lightly press down into the tips of your toes and just notice how that echoes through your body, down through the tips of the toes. How do you feel that in the rest of your body? Breathe in, and as you breathe out, let go. Notice what happens to your spine, to the lower back, to your muscles. And you continue to breathe as you need to, as you take your attention into your heels. And this time push down into your heels. And take time to notice how that feels in your legs. The calves, the knees, the thighs, the hips. The rest of your body, even through the back of your head and your shoulders. Breathe in. And then as you breathe out, let go. Let go of your heels. Let go of your body. And again, just press down into the tips of your toes. Let go. Press down into the heels. Let go. And just spend a few moments just with yourself, just rocking. Down through the toes. Let go. Down through to the heels. And really being aware of how that simple movement plays out in the rest of your body. And then just stop. And just allow your knees just to rock over towards the right. Just go over towards the right. Or may go all the way to the floor, or they might just go part way to the floor. And then bring the knees back up and let your knees rock over towards the left. They might go all the way to the floor, they might go part way to the floor. But it's that whole idea that you're just aware. You don't have to change it. If a part of your body feels quite tight or uncomfortable, then just can you ease into it? Can you move that part? If that top hip feels a little bit uncomfortable, can you ease into that hip? Can you allow the shoulders to rest? Can you be aware of the whole of your body as you breathe in? As you breathe out, and just ease your knees back up when you're ready. And then draw both knees in towards you. Lightly place your hands on your knees and just lightly rock from side to side. So you're starting to ease into the lower back. And then come to centre, settle there. Let's just do some circles. So maybe just slightly with your feet off the floor, rock your knees to the right, slightly away from you, over to the left, and then come back in. Just rocking the knees round, sort of anti-clockwise direction. And as you do that, just feeling that movement through your pelvis and through your lower back, just easing into your lower back. And you can, if you like, you can experiment, you can work with your breath. So as you breathe in, you can draw the knees back in. As you breathe out, you can send the knees away. It's just noticing how that feels. And you can slow it down or you can speed it up. So ultimately it's your body and you find what feels pleasant for you. And then we just reverse it. So the knees rock to the left and away from you, round to the right and back in. And just see if you'd rather just breathe as you do or concentrate on coordinating the breath with the movement. So whatever feels right for you, easing into your body as it is right now. And then come to centre, take both hands underneath the right knee, just ease the right knee down, place the left foot back on the floor. Left foot comes down. Circle the right ankle, just easing into the right ankle, knowing any tension that's going on in your ankle will affect your knee and will affect your hips. So slow it down at first and really feel how your body is. Circle the ankle in the opposite direction. And then keeping the knee quite close, take the right foot up towards the ceiling. And if possible, the knee can stay quite bent, and if possible, can you take your hands a little bit higher up towards the ankle. And just ease the leg down. So the leg will go to where it can go. You don't have to force it. You don't have to push it. The leg will go to where it goes. And you feel the experience what you're feeling through the ankle, through the calf, through the thigh, through the hip. And there's no right or wrong with any of these practices. You're just focusing in and being attentive to what you're feeling and being glad for what you're feeling as well. And then let go. Place the right foot back down, draw the left knee in towards you. Take both hands underneath the left knee, just ease the knee down, circle the left ankle, a few times one way, and then the other way. Just easing into that, maybe feeling that echo in your knee, feeling that movement through the ankle, in your hip. So we focus ultimately, we want to find all these movements back towards the centre of the spine, but we take our time, so we start with what we can do. We start with those joints that we can move. And then keeping the knee quite close, and the knee can stay quite bent, just take the sole of the left foot up towards the ceiling. And you can still have that connection down through the right foot as the left leg goes up. Maybe take your hands towards the ankle, the elbows are wide, your shoulders are wide, draw your chin slightly down. Have a sense of movement through the crown of the head, right down through the base of the spine. down through the right foot, maybe to ease the left leg a little bit lower down. So you just work with where you can go. Your leg might go a little bit higher up, maybe go a little bit further down, maybe go a little bit out to the side, or a little bit closer in. All we're trying to do is find mobility in our body and movement or rest in the spine. And then just bring the feet back onto the floor. So the knees stay bent. We're just going to work into small sort of back bend or small bridge position. So space between the knees, space between the ankles. And then all we're going to do here is just lightly now, send our movement feeling down through the feet. To lightly lift the hips. So we're not tilting, we're not rounding, we're just lightly lifting our hips off the floor. And then lower. Make sure you're breathing. And now take your attention to the space in the back of the knees, the space between the calf and the thighs. And is there a way that somehow we can widen or make more of a space there? So as we start to lift our hips, can we imagine the space at the back of the knees just widening, opening, becoming bigger? Even as though the knees can be drawn towards the hips. We know we're not pushing the hips up, the buttock muscles, the thigh muscles all stay soft as the hips start to lift, because we're trying to find the movement from a deeper place. We're trying to connect from the heels, through to the knees, through to the hips, to the centre of the spine, and the shoulders stay wide, rested on the floor. You're going to feel the weight go down into the shoulders. You might even feel the weight go down through the top of the head. You don't have to push it, don't have to do anything. And then feel your breath. And imagine you can make the space at the back of the knees a little bit wider, a little bit longer. So imagine someone's behind you pushing your knees in towards your hips, and that takes your spine up a little bit more, perhaps. And then you can carefully again, just lower back down. And when the spine comes down, just draw your knees in towards you, lightly place your hands on your knees, and just rock from side to side. Come to centre. Cross your ankles if it feels a little bit nicer, then be aware of your breath coming in. And as you breathe out, just ease your knees. A little bit lower down. Breath comes in. And as you breathe out, just ease your knees. A little bit lower down. Uncross the ankles, bring the feet back down, and then again, just rock your knees over towards the right, just going into that small rotation. So that just lengthens the muscles in the lower back, eases around the pelvis. Bring your knees back up and drop your knees to the left. Make sure you're breathing and feel your breath, and just having that sense as well that you're giving your weight, your body to the floor, so you don't have to hold on. Any areas of tension, anywhere that might be quite uncomfortable, now notice, and then just saying to yourself that you can let go. Your body can be given to the floor. And then carefully just bring your knees back up. Just settle there for a few moments, being back and coming back to your breath. And then when you're ready, you're just going to roll over onto your side and come to sit almost as though you can. Your head is the last part of you that lifts. You come up to sit, and then we're just going to go into all fours. So we're going to go into cat position, coming into all fours. So your wrists are more or less underneath your shoulders, and your knees are underneath your hips. Oh, it's another dog, sorry, move the dog away. Right, and then from here, we're just going to drop the top of the head, round spine, round the spine. Breathe in. And then as you breathe out, just let your breath, let everything sink down through to the floor. So you sink between the shoulder blades, you sink at the back of the waist. Breathing in, round the spine, breathe in, breathe in. And then as you breathe out, just let yourself sink. And just notice what happens to your neck, to the area between the shoulder blades, as you just carry on breathing in and rounding the spine up, breathing out and letting your weight sink to the floor. So coming into contact with that quite strong movement through the spine, but quite easy as well, quite restful as well. And then just coming back to centre, so we're just going to go into down dog. As your gaze is between your hands, and I'm just going to talk you through it. So imagine the very crown of your head, the very top of your head, And then take your attention down through to the very base of your spine. Come onto the tips of the toes. Now if you rock your heels from side to side, you're going to feel that movement through your knees. And as you rock the heels from side to side, you're going to feel that movement through the hips. Maybe a little bit higher through the spine and through the shoulders. Soften your jaw. So even though we're trying to concentrate, we're not trying to tense anything up, we're just trying to come into contact with what's happening in our body. And just come to centre. Now if you push your heels away from the knees, that sends the weight of your body back. If you draw the heels towards the knees, that sends the weight of the body forward. So now come to centre and just have the sense of connection through the feet, the tips of the toes on the floor, to the heels. Lift up one knee at a time. Now your heels are vitally important in order to get that sense of lift through the spine. So can we feel as though the heels are, or strings are attached to the heels, and the heels are being drawn up? So maybe a feeling of being drawn up through the knees, drawn up through the centre of the spine, drawn up from the wrist. And can we use that movement to lift the knees? So we're not going forward, we're not going back, we're coming up, away from the floor. The crown of the head is far, far forward. The tailbone, the base of the spine, is dropping down towards the heels, and that's what takes the heels down. Between the shoulder blades, between and up at the back of the waist, there's a feeling coming up, away from the floor. Widen the shoulders, allow the neck to go. Allow the top of the head to move forward, 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 past the fingertips. Just a feeling as the tailbone rounds and drops back towards the heels. And from deep inside underneath the ribs, can we get that feeling of coming up? So we're trying to lengthen the spine without force. Try to get a sense of what's going on inside our body, without manipulating, but just feeling. And then ever so carefully, when we lift the heels, that will bring the knees down. We flatten the feet. And can we ever so carefully just ease the hips back towards the heels. You can make light fists with your hands, or your forehead might go a little bit lower, or the forehead might come onto the floor, but just kind of going whatever feels doable for you. We're just going to go into down dog one more time. So coming into all fours, come onto the tips of the toes. And down dog, or Adho Mukha Svanasana, is a forward bend. Is a flexion of the spine. So if we already start with a slight forward bend, so between the shoulder blades, just round slightly as though you can be drawn up, as though there's strings attached or pulleys between the shoulder blades drawing you up. So you feel a very slight rounding of the spine, and then the pelvis will start to round. So you go into that forward bend. So when we lift the knees, can we still keep that sense of rounded spine, because your spine will sort itself out. Now as we get that sense coming up between the shoulder blades, can we allow the heels just to drop away, and the space between the collarbones and the fronts of the thighs is as wide and as long as possible. So that allows the top of the head to move forward as your heels move back. A feeling of coming up, underneath, space from the floor, drawing you up. So you're not pushing yourself forward, you're not pushing yourself back. You're allowing your spine to lengthen as the heels go down towards the floor. As much space in the front of the ankles and around the knees as possible. And make sure you're breathing. And then when you're ready, ease the knees back down, ease your hips back towards the heels. And just notice how you feel right now, because your body allows you to come into contact with what's going on the inside. The feeling and the sense of you. Being with your breath, being with yourself. And I thought we would just work into Cobra. So if you come into all fours again, come into all fours. So just take your hands a little bit further forward, or the knees a little bit further back. So you're kind of working it with the same way. So you imagine the top of the head moving forward, imagine the tailbone moving back perhaps. So then you get that sense of long spine. So the collarbones are coming far away from the thighs. Now, so Cobra is an extension of the spine, or it's a back bend, so it's the opposite to what we're doing with down dog. So in a sense, we want to feel as though the base, the neck, and this part here are coming together, but the shoulders stay wide. So we can use the same thing with the heels. So if we rock the heels from side to side, so just get that sense of connection. So we don't forget the heels, we don't forget the hands. And come to centre. Now if we push the heels away, that sends us back. But if we draw the heels towards the knees, that sends the top of the head forward, through the arms, but we leave the shoulders behind. We can flatten the feet to ease the knees a little bit closer in, to widen the shoulders, make space underneath the armpits, and the collarbones here, upper part of the chest, is coming up away from the thighs that are far, far below. And your gaze just goes forward. And there's that whole sense of wide, wide shoulders, long, long spine. And imagine the base of the neck, back of the neck, and the tailbone, right deep inside here, coming together. And that's what takes the spine up. Make sure you're breathing. And then just when you're ready, you come back out. And you ease back into child's pose. And then you can, if you like, move forward from the heels through the knees, through the spine, right through to the top of the head. You can go back into it, up into cobra. Being aware of your breath, and then maybe perhaps from here, you can come onto the tips of the toes. Imagine the fronts of the ribs drawing in wide, wide hips to come up into down dog. And just kind of see, you can repeat as much as you like, or just if that's enough for you, then that's enough. Really allow the neck to go. And that sense coming up from the bottom, feel your breath. And then when you're ready, you just ease back into child's pose. You can support your head, or the forehead might come onto the floor. And just being aware of and being with your breath and the feelings inside your body. And then after this, we're just going to come rest onto our backs, just for the final little bit of the session, because I'll just post a few short sequences. So coming back, as we started the class, there was that sense that we have the ability to go full circle, and kind of knowing there's a sense of impermanence about what we do. Everything changes as part of life. Part of being human, that nothing stays the same. But there's also comfort in knowing that things go full circle. So now we end the class or practice in much the same way as we started. So with the soles of your feet flat to the floor and the knees are bent, and your hands can just rest on the belly, abdomen, or the base of the ribs, wherever you find is quite comforting and nice for you. And just let everything settle. Maybe move your jaw a little bit and roll your head. So when your head comes to centre, where you perceive to be centre, it's just in quite a comfortable, easy place. And then just allowing the breath underneath your hands to be felt as the breath comes in. Torso, chest or belly rises, and as you breathe out, the part of you falls. So coming into contact with that feeling. And knowing that you don't have to do your breathing, you don't have to do it. Your body knows how to breathe. And all we really need to do is just trust. And I thought we would just do a short breathing practice, so we are actually going to start to control our breathing in order to then ultimately let it go. Much in the same way as we do the movements, the asanas, the physical movements, in order to ultimately allow our body to be comfortable and to move just as it needs to. So I'm going to introduce a count. So when you next breathe in, just counting to 3, breathing in. And as you breathe out for 3. So breathing in, 2, 3. Breathe out, 2, 3. And just carry on. And then if possible, next time you breathe out, can you breathe out for 4? So breathing in for 3, breathing out for 4. if possible, next time you breathe out, can you lengthen that breath to 5? And just notice, is it doable? Can you double that out breath to 6? Without force or strain, not kind of really trying too hard, but just seeing if it happens. And if it does, so you're breathing in for 3, breathing out for 5 or for 6, notice the spaces or the pauses between. And then just see, is it possible just to stop counting? And just to be with your breath, just as it is. And the in-breath might still be shorter than the out-breath. You might still be aware of the spaces between. And now perhaps there's not that sense of control. Now perhaps you can just allow it to happen. And your mind might wander away a little bit more easily, because we're not counting, we're not introducing that forced concentration, but then you just bring it back. If your mind wanders away, it's just an opportunity to be aware that your mind has wandered. And in that awareness, you're mindful, you're attentive, you're focused. So nothing you experience right now is a problem. Nothing you're working with right now isn't worthwhile. Everything that happens, everything you feel, is part of this experience of now, and it's relevant. So staying here as long as feels right for you, breathing, resting with yourself, experiencing what you're feeling, just in that whole kind of state. There's no right or wrong. Whatever you're feeling is what you're feeling. Whatever is in your body is what's in your body. And we're just learning to accept and learning to befriend, to cope, and ultimately to thrive with whatever challenges or whatever life throws at us. And your breath, your feelings, yourself is a resource. And just coming out of the practice when you're ready and taking your time, resting on your side, doing whatever feels right for you in order to come back into the rest of the day, or to continue with it, whatever you need to do now. But always knowing that that sense of calm, that sense of quietness is there for you, inside you.